Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're enjoying the videos. I'm enjoying making them. I'm getting better at it, I think. Maybe not, I don't know. But today we're going to go through the clutches. I'm going to show you what I do to prep. Before each race, I go through the clutches and clean them and check the belt and make sure everything is good and tight in there. So I'm gonna take the cover off here. I'm going to show you what I got behind there and show you how I maintain it. So let's get into it. Alright, we'll pull this cover off here and show you what I got behind here. If I can get this off. So I'm running a QSC REVX primary clutch here in an STM secondary. This secondary came with the quad. This QSC I had on my wife's Renegade, which she didn't like. With these aftermarket clutches, when the engine RPM goes down to a certain point, say like 10 miles an hour, the engine RPMs are down, you lose engine braking. So she didn't like that. When going down the hill, it would just free ride down the hill. And she didn't like that. She didn't feel safe. I'm used to it. I have this exact clutch on my XMR. My 850 XMR, and I love this clutch. It came with an STM primary, but I was having problems when I was going through the mud with that STM primary. The RPMs would fall. I don't think this had the right spring rate in it, and another reason I took it out was that the rollers are stuck on it, and I'll go through that in a little bit here, but so basically there's basically two reasons why you don't finish a race. Either you break something on the front end because you hit a tree and wrecked, or you blew a belt. Those are the two main reasons why you don't finish a race, and I go through these clutches after every race and go and clean them out. But the big reason why you blow belts is either it's dry rotted or the belt breaks because it gets too hot, or it overheats, it degrades the rubber. So a big thing, I think one advantage we'll have in this STM primary is it has these big fins here which help cool the clutch and the belt. It makes the belt run at a cooler temperature while you're racing. And also these the aftermarket primaries, these sleeves are locked together, and I'll show you in a minute with a stock primary. With the stock primary and the sleeves not being locked together, you get a lot of belt slip, and that slip causes heat, which degrades the belt. So all last year I ran 10 races, well, 10 and a half races. I've only went through 2 belts. I think having aftermarket clutches definitely makes the belts last longer because they run a little cooler in there. But I run the same with the pros, a Maverick belt, and I also ran an OEM belt. I had 5 races on a Maverick belt, and I had 5 races on an OEM belt. Didn't have problems with either one of them, and both the belts look like they're brand new, but you replace them anyways because you don't want to blow a belt during a race. So I'm going to show you how to take this belt off with the secondary. It's a little different than the OEM secondary. It's pretty easy with this STM secondary. Just what you do is you push the helix in here, which will spread the sleeves and the clutch sleeves, and then you can just pull the belt off. On the stock secondary, there's a threaded, you put a bolt into threads which will separate the sleeves, and you can get the belt off that way. But I'll show you guys how I get this off here. So to get this STM secondary off, what you gotta do is you take a bolt and you put it in here. and then you put a board here and push against this helix, and it will spread the sleeves. That's the quick and easy way to get it off. They do make a spreader, which I have over here. They have this spreader here, which you'd have to take this bolt off and thread this in here, and it would spread the sleeves. But that's a trick they actually I've found on YouTube to get your belt off when you have a STM secondary. So what I do each time is I'll inspect the clutches. There's buttons in here and these clutches that ride up and down. You want to make sure they're not cracked, or make sure they're not missing. So these all look pretty good. The secondary, these rollers will crack and even break sometimes, so I check these. Now this is only on the STM secondary. The stock or the OEM secondary clutch don't have rollers. They have a metal helix that's rubber coated, and it just I don't have one here for an example, but it just it rides up on the clutch, so kind of the same concept, but these are rollers. These look all good, they're not cracked. A lot of times these look cracked, so those look all good. And so what I'll do is I'll take a green scoring pad. I got one right here. Before each race, I'll take a green scoring pad and I'll just clean these clutches up. I'll go perpendicular to the shaft, and I think it helps get the initial bite like off the line for the hole shots. I think that helps quite a bit. I'll go through and I'll put it in time lapse so you can see me do it, but I'll clean the primary up and I'll clean the secondary up. Just clean that up and then I'll blow it all out with air. So let's get into it. Alright, so we got those clutches all cleaned up. Green scoring pad perpendicular to the shaft, and blow it out with air. You can use alcohol if you want to wipe those clean a little bit. I don't ever do that, but I know some guys do that. One thing I wanted to show you over here was, so I got the clutches out. This is an STM, it's a 3RS. This is the primary clutch that was in the quad. And like I said before, I don't think it needs a different spring in it, because it won't maintain high RPMs going through the mud. It was fine in the dry ground, but once you got in some mud, it really bogged down. And also, some of these rollers, this one's moving, but it's wore quite a bit. The buttons are wore on this. I don't know how many miles are on this clutch when I bought it, but like this roller right here it's not moving, it's stuck. So I need to get a rebuild kit for this and get it up and running for a spinner. This is a stock primary clutch from a 1000R Renegade, and you can see the problem with this is these sleeves aren't locked like this clutch here, the aftermarket ones, and this creates a lot of belt slip. This comes off. That creates a lot of belt slip, and then the belt heats up, and then you have a higher chance of your belt blowing because the rubber actually breaks down. But that's my setup. I have a QSC RevX primary and then STM secondary, which I love. It's a great setup. Head-to-head stock machines, the aftermarket clutches, like my QSC, I had in 300 foot, I had a quad length in front of my friend that has the exact same four-wheeler. The only difference is I had the QSC clutch. So a lot of the guys racing use a Maverick secondary. I don't know much about it. I got this one with the quad. This is a Maverick secondary. You can see it. This has the fins. I'm not sure if the stock secondaries on a Renegade have these fins. They might, to try to help cool the belt. But this is a Maverick secondary, and like the STM, it had rollers, but all the rollers busted out of this. And the guy just gave it to me when I bought the quad, so that's a spare. I'd have to fix it up, put new rollers in it if I wanted to use it. So I've actually weighed each of these primary clutches that I have. I weighed the stock primary clutch, my STM 3 RS clutch, and the QSC clutch. And the OEM primary clutch weighed the most. I think it was like 13 pounds. I'll put the numbers up on the screen here so you can see them. I think the primary, or the OEM, was like 13 pounds. The STM was like 11 pounds and some change. And then the QSC clutch was 8.5 pounds, something like that. So the QSC clutch has a little bit of a smaller one-way bearing in it than the STM, not much. And it's also a lighter clutch, so it has a little bit of advantage there. But if the clutches are tuned right, they're going to run about the same, the STM and the QSC. So I just wanted to throw that in there, a little bit of extra information for you. So I got a couple belts out here that I use or have used. I run primary Maverick belt. Some of the literature says it's like a hundredth of an inch wider than the OEM Renegade belt. And you know it's a Maverick belt because the part number right here is 280367 or 364. That's the OEM Maverick belts, and I think they're a little stronger than the OEM Renegade belts. And this is an OEM. Let me see if I can get this. If I can get the part number here. So the OEM Renegade belts or Outlander belts are 280360. That's the OEM Renegade belt. I've had, when I bought the quad, there was some aftermarket belts with it. This is it's an Ultimax UA belt for a Renegade. It's cheaper belt to buy, but it's definitely cheaper made. It's not as heavy as a Maverick belt just by the sheer weight of it. These fins on the back, this is to help cool the belt. They're not as deep as a Maverick belt. These here, it's not as heavy as, I don't think it's as wide. I didn't measure it, but I'm not gonna, these Maverick belts are $160 a piece. This one here is like $100. I'm gonna spend the extra $60 on a belt just to have that peace of mind knowing I'm gonna finish a race. So I'm gonna actually throw on just an aftermarket belt because I'm gonna be practicing here. We got less than 60 days to the first race, so I gotta try to get this quad back together and do some practicing, give it a shakedown, make sure everything's tight on it, and we'll get it ready to go. So I'm gonna get this clutch cover back on over here, and I'll show you what I do for that. So we got to put the belt back on, and then we'll get the clutch cover on, and I'll show you what I do for these bolts that hold the cover on. Alright, so I'm going to put this cover back on, and if you guys have never taken this off before, which I'm pretty sure you have, I always never seize these bolts that hold the cover on here. They're known for stripping the brass nut on the backing plate. There's a brass nut right here that they go into, and these bolts are known for getting stuck in there, and then stripping that out, and then you got to pull this whole thing off to replace that backing plate. So I always use never seize or anti-seize on these bolts, and you don't have to tighten them down really hard. There's 13 bolts on there. You don't have to tighten them down. What I do is I'll snug it up, and then I'll go just a little bit into tight. You don't have to crank down on them. And I've never had a problem since I started using never seize on them, and just tight and then, or snug and then tight. I've never had any of them strip out on me. So I'm gonna never seize these up and get this cover back on, and catch you on the other side. So like I was saying before, just want to snug it, and then a little more past that. There's snug, just a little bit past that. Never had the belt box leak on me, and I never had these bolts get stuck in there since I started using never seize, and just a little tight. So that wraps it up for my clutch maintenance. So just a little bit of a review. Aftermarket primary clutches will run cooler, and you'll get a lot more belt life, or life out of your belts. Your engine braking is gonna go away under 10 miles an hour, say, when your engine RPMs go down. What I'll do is I'll blip the throttle. If I'm going down the hill, I'll blip the throttle, and I'll ride the brake down the hill just to keep that engine braking engaged. You kind of got to get used to it. Otherwise, it'll just freewheel down the hill, and you lose all your engine braking. So we're running Maverick belts. I believe they're a little stronger than the OEM belts, or OEM Renegade belts. We're using the OEM Maverick belts, and I gave you the part numbers for that. So I should be getting my shocks back from RKVC here next week. Hopefully my powder coating, and I'll be able to start putting everything back together. I don't want to put my handlebars on and all that together yet, because you gotta put the air box on, and if you gotta pull this out, it's a pain because you gotta pull the air box back off to get to these bolts. So I'm kind of waiting for my powder coat to come back to mount my handlebars, and then I'll get my air box on, and I gotta mess around with the steering on this to get it straightened out, and get the toe and stuff right on it. So I got a couple little things I gotta do to it yet. Just little stuff. I'll try to make a video of it. Probably put on time lapse, because it's not gonna be anything real huge, but I got all the stuff for that. Just waiting for my shocks and powder coating, and hopefully you learned something about the clutches here. If you can afford aftermarket clutches, I highly recommend them. If not, a lot of people run stock clutches. Also, some of the pros run the stock primaries, but they're also replacing their belts every single race, and I can't afford to do that at $160 a pop. So hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to the next one.